Financially, Surat has always been self-propelled, I would say. We see a lot of cities that have been helped by the government, by the system to kind of, grow and all. But Surat has more or less have been always kind of a self-propelled one. I think some or the other where even again the sense of belonging kind of starts coming in, because if you have good art pieces in the city, if you have good uh, uh, open and the common spaces, public spaces in the city, you also feel proud about those things. All the artists should kind of start coming on the platforms like this, and I think that way social media on the positive side is also helping a lot in terms of reaching to different kinds of people.
Hello, I am Needhish Tyagi, and this is our special edition of Abir Pothi's Samvaad happening in Surat. This is one of the rare offline event happening with Jaquar. And today we have architect Vishal Shah with us, who is both, who is an architect, practicing architect, and as well as a teacher. And I look forward to have a very interesting conversation with him. Welcome, Vishal.
Thank you very much, Needhish.
So we start with, we are talking about Surat and the layers of Surat, and you have been, and you teach about it and you also practice. So how do you see Surat as in layers of it, and then how, and keeping it functional, this whole madness of the city, it's a very thriving city, it's one of the fastest growing city in the world, lots of migration, lots of industry, and then how do you see it? Like, how do you paraphrase this city?
Uh, I would say that as you mentioned, it's a very layered city, and every era there has been some or the other additions that have kept on happening to Surat. It started as a small city, and because of the vicinity to the sea and a large river estuary, it started trading with a lot of countries around Asia and Europe and all these places. And that's why we get this name Choriasi, which is 84, the Gujarati of 84. And we have a place which is called Choriasi. And it is said that there are 84 countries used to trade with Surat. And it's not only about trade, or it's not only about finance, but it's about the cultures that bring these trades bring to Surat. And that's how, you will see a lot of these layered influences of various places, whether they are Middle East, whether they are from the eastern part of the world, or Europe, or all these places. And this was in a way for a long time the gateway to the Indian thing. And that's why, when we come to Surat, we'll find that these influences also gets translated into the name of the places, the type of buildings and architecture and art that you see on those buildings, which are very layered and very combination of things. So normally when we see inland cities and all, which are not so much influenced by trade or trade routes, or influence of different kinds of cultures, you will find that there are very specific styles that you will find. But here in Surat, you will find a combination, or rather a melange of all these things, a fusion of things, whether they are Indo-Saracenic, whether they are, the colonial and the local mixing up. So a lot of institutions that were done during the colonial times, you will find that, you'll have those colonial features also, and something which is very specific to the region's climate and culture and the workmanship also. So that ways I feel Surat has always been very welcoming to all these new things. Whatever they feel is good, they used to accept it and used to kind of make it their own. And that's where it is very distinct than certain places which have a very specific way of looking at cultures, or very, I would say, singular way of looking at culture. So here I would say Surat is very pluralistic in terms of the culture and the layers that it brings with it.
Which I think is also true about cities with some kind of maritime history.
Yes, very much.
And
yes,
which is different from, like, I come from Delhi, and so there is also like there are also like lots of vibrance and diversity, but it's not the same as a port city. So one of the things is that now when we are talking in 2023, how do you see that Surat is shaping up? How do you think it's readying itself to a future city in terms of, because it's also the fastest growing city?
Financially, Surat has always been self-propelled, I would say. Like, we see a lot of cities that have been helped by the government, by the system to kind of, grow and all. But Surat has more or less have been always kind of a self-propelled one, whether it is the introduction of the uh, synthetic textiles as a business, or diamond polishing as a business. It has always been, and of course, because it was quite open to accepting people also, and mingling with people also, you'll find a lot of migrants communities and larger communities that are kind of coming from specific areas and indulging into specific trades, like diamond. You will find mostly North Gujarat people and the Saurashtra people coming, and
Also, people from Odisha, they come here
for diamond.
for diamond. Yeah.
For diamond. So the polishing and all these things is mainly by the Saurashtra people and the North Gujarat people, and they come also as trading for that. When you look at textiles, you will find that all these North Indian states, you will have a lot of workers that are coming in, and you will find a lot of Rajasthani and Marwadis from different parts of India coming in as the traders. So you'll find that, and of course the local jari business, which also got translated towards textile a little bit. So you'll also find local people over here also. So in the new times, because diamond and textile are the two major things that propels the economy, the growth has also been like that. So for almost now 40 years, that's almost around 4 decades, Surat has always been featuring as one of the fastest growing city in the world, with one of the highest decadal growth rate. What it has brought is a lot of financial progress, but at the same time, it has also brought a lot of complexities in terms of migration, in terms of handling with the civic services, a lot of things which are related to the management of the city, and so on and so forth. So initially, it faltered in handling all these things, and in a way, the so-called plague and the floods, which were there as a part of the 1990s and the early 2000s, were kind of a wake-up call for the city. And then the city administration and even the people, they kind of took things in their own hand, and now you can see that it has now become a beacon of a torchbearer of good governance, of cleanliness, of implementing reforms that are being expected by the national policies and all those kind of things. So too much of things that you will always see happening in Surat. So it is always, and this has been the character of the city from the beginning. It has always been very, very thriving and never sleepy town.
One other thing which I was want to talk about was this whole, the whole aesthetic of public spaces, because when you are actually managing such a huge population, you said 7.5
Million.
millions.
7.5 million, 75 lakhs,
Yeah,
almost.
75 lakh people living here, which is like again a kind of bigger than probably a metropolitan, and do not seen as a one of the 8. I mean, it's not in the
Right.
top 8 metropolitan cities.
Yes.
So, so one is this public space thing, that how do you think about the aesthetic of public spaces, and vis-a-vis managing this demographic of lots of migration and people coming in, the whole industrial complexes of the city.
So there are two parts to this entire thing. One is because it is predominantly migration population that resides in the city of Surat. We normally see this time lag, because the first generation always is basically inclined towards making a living, rooting themselves over here, so on and so forth. And then the second and the third generation, they actually start contributing to the city for its well-being, because those are the people who are actually kind of maybe brought up over here or even born over here, the second and the third
There is
generation.
a sense of belonging
So
now.
the sense of belonging that starts coming in at that, so it kicks in at that point in time. So that is one reason I feel a lot of time the commons, as we say, the
Yes.
common spaces are not that much qualitative. And since last 20 years, we have been also trying to do that. Like, when I came back to Surat, in fact, this is something which is very personal as a story that some or the other, Surat was the reason that I came back. Is from after studying in Ahmedabad, I was already having a lot of offers to work with people, but I came back to Surat because I wanted to do something for the city of Surat, and from there the journey of resurrecting the lake of Gopi Talav started, which was also one of my academic projects, and that was basically to bring this commons, the art.
Reclaim the commons.
Yes, to claim the common and to provide people or give back to the people these kind of very qualitative public spaces. Like this was, of course, Gopi Talav in 16th century was also done as a public works project during a time of drought, and the Malay Gopi, who was one of the traders, a very prominent figure of Surat, he commissioned this project so that he can employ people who were not having any work, and was also preparing for that whenever it rains, water can be collected into this place. So that's how these public spaces started kind of building up. And same is the case with whether it is the Bowries or whether it is
Yes.
the stepwells that we see, especially in the northwestern dry areas and all. This prominently was a perennial area with good rainfall and rivers and all these water bodies. So it never had that kind of problems previously, but because this thing happened in the 15th century and 16th century, the birth of this large open space and commons started happening. And then, of course, there were a lot of political and geopolitical things that happened. The Britishers came and all those kind of things, and slowly, all these things again got lost in this entire thing. Even the market that we look at, the Chowk Bazar, was basically a marketplace wherein, from outside people used to come and they used to have their uh, shops, in a way, hearts over there, and they used to trade over there. So these were also kind of open spaces which were always there. So I feel that not enough of attention was given to, in the modern day times or planning, not enough of attention was given to the detailing of these spaces, and high quality of such spaces is something that is very much required. So initial 1970s, 80s or 1990s, even till the change of the century, it was predominantly just providing that, okay, you have to have a park, you have to have the basic facilities, and of course, as India, as the entire nation was also going through that kind of change after the liberalization and everything. But since 2000, we can see that these things have started changing, and incorporation of uh, having qualitative common spaces, though limited, not
Sure.
to the extent that we would want it to happen, started since the first decade of the millennium, and then, of course, has sped up in the second decade. And what we see right now, Surat, is there's a lot of these art and everything that has started coming up as a part of the civic body's beautification drive, or we would say, making the common spaces, public spaces more desirable for the people. And I think some or the other where even again the sense of belonging kind of starts coming in, because if you have good art pieces in the city, if you have good uh, 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 open and the common spaces, public spaces in the city, you also feel proud about those things, especially when you are kind of branding your city in front of outsiders and all. So I think that those things have started. Of course, there is a long way to go in this, but that is what my feeling is about how it is doing right now.
Vishal, take us through your personal journey. Talk about your own projects which you have done.
So this one that I was talking about, the redevelopment of the lake of Gopi Talav, was one project which was a very historical lake, lost in this whole urbanization thing, and then we kind of resurrected it. The rebirth of that lake happened, and it is right now one of the most visited spaces in the city, and of course, a lot of people from around the region also come there. and it has also done a lot of environmental benefits to the immediate surrounding area. So that's one project that most of the people in the city knows, and that's one thing which relentlessly I had to work for almost more than 15 years, 16 years to actually make it happen. And that's where my association with public projects and my association with Surat comes in at the forefront. Then parallelly, we also work for a lot of other projects. Like there is this another very interesting project that we did, which was a stretch on the Dumas uh, entry. So there was a statue of our ex Prime Minister Morarji Desai, which was at a roundabout, and there was a World War II memorial, uh, which was an anchor, a large anchor. We in Gujarati call it langar.
Yeah.
So Langar and this place were 500 meters away, and we were given a very mundane brief of redeveloping that uh,
Patch.
patch, or rather, not even the patch, the circle only. So redevelopment. But when we said that, okay, no, this is the entire entry point, and let's make something which is interesting and which the people look forward to coming to. So that particular stretch was almost around 500 meters, but was only having a width of 4 meters. So what we thought that let's make some very interesting art installations over there, and then we kind of went into the history of Dumas and what should we represent over there and all. So the fishermen community, which is the predominant community of that place, so we started kind of taking objects like boats and oars and waves and those kind of things, and we started creating installations that were interactive. So with all the given constraint of working on a public project, wherein it's very difficult to find space for art as a tender item.
Yeah.
So we had to work the other way around. So we designed things, and then we kind of thought that, okay, how where does this fit in terms of in a very mundane kind of a tender process. And then we kind of started kind of detailing those things. So that is another very interesting project wherein we have multiple installations which have become photo ops for people to be there. So in fact, when we were doing a small interview session over there, just recording about the experience of the project, we had a group of people who came from the fishermen community, and they were all dressed up, and they were all health enthusiasts, and all dressed up in their um, gym clothes and all. And we just curiously asked them that what are you guys doing here? Why are you all in the same clothes and all? So they told us that this was the first time that we have been represented in a public space.
Wow.
And this, there is nothing written over there, or nothing is there in terms of explanation of all these things as a write up, but common people could feel that. So we were also quite surprised, and we were happy that, okay, the message that as designers we want to give, or the purpose of the arts and the installation that is there to kind of connect to people, has been served.
And acknowledge them that they were
Yes,
part of
yes.
the, history
Yes.
and the city.
Yes, exactly. Because as you were talking about the maritime thing, fishermen and sailors and traders have been the backbone of the making of the cities. And over a period of time, they kind of are maybe traders still kind of evolve a lot, but fishermen and sailors and all these people, they were kind of in a way marginalized and
Left behind.
left behind kind. So here they get a representation. So I feel that in public spaces also this kind of things makes a big difference. So since you have asked me about projects, so this was another project where we were able to do that. And similarly, a lot of public projects we have been doing, and we try to bring in this qualitative aspect into that we need to deliver qualitative public spaces. As far as the private projects are concerned, wherein we are making bungalows or apartment interiors, or even institutional building, there it kind of becomes more specific to the user, more specific to the what you want to represent as a family or as a trust or as an institution. So there we kind of bring a lot of artwork and we tie up with a lot of artists as an integral part of our design process and not something that comes at the end. So,
Yeah, that is the
so
other
it's
kind
not
of
something wherein it is just for decorative purpose, but also has to have some sort of a meaning.
true. The other thing which I wanted to ask was, how Surat, or I mean these new cities basically. I mean, Surat is not a new city, but new in the sense that they started from a non-metropolitan kind of a space and now aspiring to be, one of the global address. So there's always this fine balance between retaining that old thing,
Yes.
character, and then also being relevant in this globalized kind of part of the global village kind of a thing. So how is that happening in Surat?
Uh, this is one of my favorite phrase, which is change and continuity. So I think both these things are very much important for the vitality of any city. So you cannot be so stagnant that you are museumized, and at the same time you cannot be so non-conforming to what you are, and you are completely lost or uprooted from what you were. So there has to be certain things that needs to be carried forward, and there's certain things that needs to change with time for the purpose of relevance. So I think Surat comparatively is doing that quite in a balanced way, is what I feel. So the what it is retaining is this openness, is this absorption of culture, is this absorption of new things, but still it retains its small city character or a small town character, wherein everyone types.
Yeah.
Though the population that we are talking about, 7 million odd people living in there, is not the kind of population wherein you can know each other. But still, when we look at the community, it's quite a close knit
It's not
community.
like alienated and yeah.
Yes, yes. So, of course, there are challenges because there are different communities, different region people who are kind of living over here. But some or the other, how the what we say, the tasir of this place is such that everybody starts kind of melting into this spot. So that is where I feel Surat is trying to strike a balance between the change and the continuity. The change that is happening is, as I already mentioned, that the governance part, the self-propelled economy part is trying to kind of bring that change from within. So rather than it being kind of guided
Or
from outside,
imposed
or
by
imposed upon, it is trying to kind of come up with its own ways of dealing with these things.
and being a trader maritime kind of a town. I mean there is an inherent cosmopolitanism in
Yes,
the city that
very
way.
much, very much. Yes. So that is where I feel Surat has always been like, if you see the development of Surat that has happened after 1970. So for a long time it was constrained within the old city, which is approximately around 8 square kilometer of an area, and then in last 50 years, if you see, it has kind of now almost 50 times of what it was. So that's how the speed of development has happened, both in terms of its area and both in terms of its population. So I think this explosion, and there is always a debate that also keeps on happening, that what is the optimum size of a city that has to be there? Should it keep on ever growing? So I
Or should
feel
the same city be ever growing, or should we have more cities
more
which are like
cities,
coming
or
up and with
yes,
their own,
yes.
where everything is spaced out?
So I feel now Surat is at that point wherein it has to think of that. So
But as an urban design expert, what do you think about it? I mean, I think India has that problem. I mean, we don't actually have. I think with the townships which we had, like,
yes,
I come from Chhattisgarh and I lived in Chandigarh and Bhilai and
right,
Raurkelas of the
right.
world. And there are not many new cities coming in, and that kind of builds lots of pressure on,
The
a city like
existing
Surat.
ones,
And
yes.
so each city becomes bit of, there are not too many places to go and Yeah, that way.
uh, and the dichotomy of this whole thing is that there are cities within the cities.
True.
So, when the cities become so large, you are only concerned about a certain part of the city. All your references and everything are in that part of the city itself, whether it is your friends, your family, your schools, your, you know, anything. And like, the way you go once in a while, once in a month to a different city, similarly, you go to a different part of the city. So, that's also there. So, personally, when you are asking my advice, I feel that there has to be a certain size of the city beyond which the physicality of the city should not grow. uh, the solution of it, I am right now not very sure.
No, I think like Chandigarh and Bhilai, these were like great examples
Yes.
in terms of almost everything. When the new middle class, the cosmopolitan middle class came from these
True.
places. At the same time, they also like they were a bit of an imposition in terms of returning the or reclaiming the old culture and the continuity of those things. But clearly, I think that is one thing which India has not like really considered much.
Right.
I think post 60s probably. But then that's adding too much of pressure on cities. You're also a teacher, so tell me about what do you teach and how, and we're talking about integrating different uh, disciplines into architecture and design.
So, I have been teaching since a very young age, and initially, of course, it was more about those one-to-one things with the students, and also keeping myself updated, challenged with the kind of new ideas that the students come up with, to kind of also keep up in terms of pace, in terms of technology, in terms of new things that are coming in. So initially it was much more of that, but of late, since last 5 7 years, it has been more about pedagogy. It has been more about molding the entire system, especially of education, that how we can still keep it relevant. And that's where this whole idea of cross disciplinary learning, interdisciplinary learning, transdisciplinary learning kind of comes in. And that's where as a teacher, as somebody who um, is also working towards the systems, we felt that we need to bring in more disciplines, and it should not remain in terms of a silo. Like, suppose we are talking about architecture education, so it should not just remain as a silo. It has to kind of also have arts as an allied thing, planning or technology as allied thing. And that's why since last 3 4 years we have been actively trying to do that, and have been doing multiple courses and also fusing them together in terms of their learning. And we are seeing some very uh, promising outcomes of that, wherein the students have started also becoming more open to new things. And as we are seeing that there is a big change that is happening in the way we uh, I would not use the word practice, but the way we do any occupation or any profession, it has changed a lot. It has come out of, or it is almost out of this whole silo uh, mechanism, wherein if you are an architect, you are only supposed to do this. If you are this, you are only supposed to do this. Now there are people who are kind of going into finance people coming into sales, and there are people who are good at art also trying to kind of influence your choices related to art. Maybe they have no formal degree into that. Okay, and so recently there's this big hue and cry about there are a lot of finance influencers that are there who are not qualified as finance expert, but still they are kind of being followed. And all these social media changes and the kind of visual information that is bombarded. So we feel that as teachers, it is our responsibility to make students think about uh, how critically they can evaluate all these things, how they can find out what is to be followed, or what needs to be innovated, rather than just getting carried away by the currents that are happening. So rather than, and of course, now when information is available at fingertips, nobody is going to come to colleges or formal education for information. They are going to come to understand or to learn how this informations can be applied or how they can be critically
Experiential knowledge.
yeah, so experiential knowledge also, and how this can be critically transformed into something that can innovate or can change the world. So that's where we'll also have to challenge ourselves as teachers, as education system, and of course the students will also have to rise up to that occasion. So that is where teaching comes as a very important aspect of my personal being, that how that is affecting me, and it keeps me challenged all the time, and stops me from being complacent to kind of stop searching for new things.
How do you balance these two things? Like, being a teacher, which is like, in its own way, it requires lots of investing your time and, and then practicing, which is like, again, quite an applied thing.
Yeah, so I basically, if I have to talk philosophically, this is an investment of time, as you mentioned, that whatever time I give for teaching is my investment in terms of gaining knowledge, uh, keeping myself afresh, challenging myself in terms of doing new things, and keep myself surrounded by young budding ideas,
Energies.
and a lot of positive energy. So that's what kind of helped me in the other half, wherein I kind of come up with freshness, I kind of come up with a lot of experimentation, and kind of also challenge my team, that okay, this is what is happening, and if you are not going to adapt to this, then you will be out of the race, or whatever the you won't be relevant in today's time. So that's as far as the philosophical look at or outlook of this entire thing. If we look at something which is very professional and system oriented thing, um, I always have been considerate of the fact that if I want to do these things, I cannot do it alone. I'll have to have people who are equally partnering into this idea, and of course, down the line, a team who believes in this. And that's how this entire almost 2 decade long journey has been, and of building team, of building partnerships and all. So normally when we look at architects, artists, designers, we are always kind of trained as if we are individuals, and it's not okay to um, have a consensus on design, kind of a thing, that we are individuals and we should have our creative differences every time. But when it comes to profession, I think there has to be some sort of a common ground that needs to be reached, and those kind of things and thinking approach has helped me to have very good partners, and uh, a team that now helps me to spare my time for a lot of different things than the regularities of a practice.
So you have a team about, you said about 40, 45 people.
Around 35, 40
35,
people.
40 people. How many of them are your students?
Including my partner, everybody is my student. Because as I told
So
you,
that's like a placement guarantee. Okay.
So yes,
I wanted to ask about how you experience art in your, personally. I mean, how do you, so when you look at, or you went to, see places, how do you experience art? What is your take on that?
see, I am not a camera person, so I would like to sink into the place. So rather than clicking things, I would want to kind of soak in things. So that is my way of looking at things, and that's why a lot of my experience and my references, they come from the travels that I have done, whether it is in India or abroad, and normally even the family vacations are in a way done in a fashion that you get to see more and more new things, you get to soak up into the culture, the food, the place, the people, and all those kind of things, and some or the other how these learnings, they come from there. And so is the essence of aesthetics, is what I feel, that a lot of our work are influenced by people or architects like Geoffrey Bawa from Sri Lanka, and even so we like works of Geoffrey Bawa also, and we like the works of Corbusier also to a certain extent. Both of them used to employ art in a very different manner, but both of them used to have the art as a part of that. But why we say that, okay, we are more influenced in terms of the process, not as the final product, but the process of Geoffrey Bawa is these things were an integral part of the design process. So even if he wanted to do colors of the interiors or kind of design ceiling, so he had these artists with him whom he would give this, that okay, this is a blank thing, this is a sketch, that is the space. Now please, you add your colors to it, you add your art to it, and make it a part of the process of the designing thing. So it's not something that is kind of stuck from above as a later addition. So that is where our references also comes in. So whenever we also design, we always kind of take this as an integral part of the entire process. There are a couple of artists, couple of people from the art field who are kind of an extension of our office. So whether it is textiles, whether it is paintings, whether it is metal art, whether it is anything that has to do, even lighting and all also. So from the very beginning, we get into that mode. So they become a part of our interior design or the space design concept. So that is how the practice looks at art, and the practice looks at the processes that are there.
So Vishal, Abir Pothi is also like a kind of one of the good ports for lots of young and emerging artists. Abir India Foundation works for most of the artists coming from hinterland.
Right.
So what do you tell them? Being a practicing architect and a teacher who's trying to integrate art into architecture and design. So what do you tell them how do they kind of, find more takers like you? How do they find people like you?
I think one thing that is there, and what even I was explained about Abir Pothi and this whole reaching out to masses is something that all the artists should kind of start coming on the platforms like this. And I think that way social media on the positive side is also helping a lot in terms of reaching to different kinds of people. Like you will see, of course, that's only the start point of it, but at least it gives you that start point, reaching to multiple
getting
number
that
of
entry point.
Entry point, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that is something that they should start doing, because that's how most of us also get our information from. And I think that is how a lot of integration will start happening across, like what I was talking about in terms of education, that the students from different fields, when they study together, they start kind of creating new things. Similarly here also, the professionals, the artists, the designers also have to come together in this creation process.
Yeah, this whole cross-pollination.
Yes. Yeah. So then, everyone will start kind of influencing each other in a positive manner, in a creative manner.
Yes.
So I would suggest that more and more people should kind of start getting into this kind of collaborative working.
But one other thing is that I mean, I'm a small town person. I mean, when I was growing up, now I'm not. But then, so there are two things to it. That how do you fit into the wider structure? And to do that, you want to sound like hip and contemporary. And the second is how that authentic aesthetic and the character of the place, the ecosystem, the geographies we come from. There should be some kind of mix between these two things, right? But then how do we get to,
Now this
like we're talking about this the sailors and the boatmen and
yes.
yeah.
So this struggle is real for everyone. Like even as architects, also this struggle is every time it's there. Like whether you give in to the scale up game, whether you stick to what you want to do and kind of have your own niche. So that every individual will have to decide. And once they are confirming to that, then start searching for people, those who conform to these ideas or those who are as a part of that circle. And I think then this cross pollination thing will work amazingly. Just to give you an example, like, when we shifted to our old office, maybe almost around 17, 18 years back, at that point in time, we just came across one artist who had his office just below ours. And that's where we actually first met, and just by the virtue of being in the same place. And then we started kind of interacting. And so slowly, when you start kind of exchanging ideas, we thought that he is a very integral part of our design. He can become a very integral part of our design process. So whether it is paintings, whether it is detailing out certain surfaces or doing something in metal, we appoint him as a part of our team whenever we are designing.
Yeah.
So the last year we shifted our office from that place to this place, and within 6 months he was like, "No, I cannot, keep my creative pursuits being away from you guys." So he also kind of shifted to the same
Moved in.
place and moved into the same place. And I think this is how it kind of becomes a part of the larger creative processes. So I feel this is something that everybody will have to find their own niche
And collaborative spaces.
and collaborative spaces. Yes, and everyone will have to give in to that. You cannot kind of keep on holding things and then I will do everything kind of a thing.
So if I'm just a young artist out of a college, or maybe I'm not from a college, I'm just like a self-taught artist, how do I approach you? How do I get to you?
You can straight away come to me and you present
No, I'm not
your
here.
work.
So what do I do?
You can.
I mean, I'm just talking about in the sense that how does a person get to, somebody who is actually willing to collaborate with younger people? I mean, so what is the mechanism you think?
In fact, I was not thinking of this thing, but since you have asked this question, when we made our new office, we have specifically designed the center of the office in a way that anybody, any young artist, creative person, any who wants to come and share their work, display their work, bring people, can use that place on a weekend free of cost.
Brilliant.
And that is our idea. That is what at this juncture we can provide as a platform to people, right? So that's our way of reaching out to the creative community. So similarly, like, anybody can come to us and say that, okay, I would like to display my work, or I would like to just bring in people and want to have a crit of my work.
Yeah.
So we had the artist who would say that, okay, I am just a single person who is working and I keep on working, but there's nobody to kind of comment on my work. So can you arrange a session wherein I will present my work and get your feedback on that? So no, these kind of things can also be done. So basically a place for creative discourses.
Yes.
So that is what, as professionals, as designers, as architects, we can offer, number one. Number two, as I was already mentioning, that approach us, and we are open to new things, we are open to new ideas, we are open to bringing you also as a part of our design processes and working.
That's such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for this interview, Vishal, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.